All bark or no bite. What is Jake Paul? We really don't know, but let's try to delve in, and I think we can get some answers here. This is Stephen Milhausen. Walk away to Fight Club. It is Sunday. Yes, Sunday, July the 21st, 2024. Thank you to everyone that has been listening. It means a lot. It is greatly appreciated. But let's get right into it. Jake Paul went in, destroyed another MMA. I wouldn't call Mike Perry a legend. I would call him a bare knuckle boxing legend. The sixth round TKO victory for Jake Paul in front of a sold out crowd, over 17,500 people at the Amalie Arena out in Tampa, Florida. You could have watched that on DAZN pay-per-view. The pacing of that show was god awful. I'll just start there. Sorry about that. Absolutely terrible. I don't get the 9 Eastern, 8 Central start. What are we doing? There is no reason why that show should not have started at an hour earlier. As I told, and I said something to people, I put something on Twitter to people at DAZN, got all mad about it, but I'm like, that main event should not have been starting at midnight Central. I almost fell asleep. I'm old. I'm 43 with 2 kids. Let's be real. Let's be honest about it. Fights were good. I'll give MVP that. Fights were competitive. I like Chavez Jr. and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Uriah Hall. I liked it a whole lot more, I guess, than other people did. Good. I thought a solid win for Chavez Jr. Had been out for 2.5 years. Looked like a guy who hadn't fought in 2.5 years. But he fought at cruiserweight, weight class he's never fought at, and looks solid. Uriah Hall, like Chavez said, very sloppy. Not really. I don't know what Uriah Hall is doing in the boxing ring, but that's for here nor there. But I think Chavez is in the Jake Paul business, and we'll get into what's next for Jake Paul. But Chavez keeps his name in the game. Well, I'll put it that way. We'll get into that in a minute. But it's, the crowd was rabid, and that's what I love about a Jake Paul fight. The crowd is there early. Get to your traditional boxing show. Fans are coming in. Second fight of the main card, co-main event. Everyone starts coming in. Jake Paul fights. It's a younger demographic. I've been to 2. I can vouch for it is a very different atmosphere, and in a good way. That's what boxing needs. You need to try to reach more of that younger demographic. And that is the one thing Jake does really well. But Amanda Serrano, just very, actually, even before we get to that, the hype train known as H2O Silv, that went to the H2O. You can take he's going to need a lot more water after that. Lucas Bahadi, wow. My 2024 knockout of the year, and we're only in July. Beautiful knockout. And Amanda Serrano looked like Amanda Serrano, overmatched Stevie Morgan. A fight that I don't even know how, I guess it could have got, I'm trying to figure out how they got sanctioned. There's a couple fights on this card that I kind of really like. How did this really get sanctioned? If we're really just being honest. But it is what it is. Amanda Serrano moves on. She'll face Katie Taylor. Looks like November the 15th, AT&T Stadium on the undercard, the co-main event of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. I'm calling it Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. Let's just be realistic about this. But main event, Jake looked okay. I thought Jake looked. I'll give Jake this. You could tell he's improved. You could tell he's putting the work in. His jab, not a bad jab. Still sloppy in a lot of spots. But I thought for the most part, I thought Jake, he looked crisp. Shots were heavy. His hands are getting quicker. They're no longer slow and plodding where you see it coming. There's a little, he's using good feints. Like, you want to give him credit? Yeah. He knocked Mike Perry down 3 times. Scored the knockout. Knockout TKO, whatever you want to call it. I call it a knockout, but let's call it what it is. It was I guess you could, since Mike Perry technically got up and then wobbled to his right and nearly fell back on the ground. You could tell the referee really wanted to let that go. And then once Mike starts stumbling. But Mike Perry is, that's a man made of steel in a lot of ways. Give Mike Perry a ton of credit. Let's give him what is due. He deserves a lot of credit. Credit that he won't get, but I'll give it to him. And I know a lot of other people will too, because look at where Mike Perry was in the UFC. Left the UFC, went and became the face of bare knuckle boxing and is making a ton of money, drawing a ton of eyeballs. He got this opportunity. He came off really well. Mike landed some good shots. It wasn't like he just went in there and just said, "Hey, Jake, hit me in the face." Mike Perry landed a lot of good. He landed about 5 or 6 really good shots that really caught Jake's attention. Jake won't admit it. He admitted he got caught by 1 in the second round. But Jake felt us. I would say at least 5 of those. I counted 6. I'm gonna rewatch the fight later. But 5 or 6 shots that Mike landed really, really well. But that's what Jake was supposed to do. Let's be frank. He faced an MMA bare knuckle boxing fighter, and he faced a guy who normally fights at between 170 and 185. And Mike Perry weighed 195 pounds. Let's call this what it is. And we'll get into that in a moment. But what is next for Jake Paul? Let's go there. What's next? Well, which I thought, man, if I was DAZN, I would be pissed. Because it didn't take long for Jake to go into, I'm fighting Mike Tyson November the 15th on Netflix. Now, I know MVP has a deal with DAZN to air Most Valuable Prospects, which I think is actually quite brilliant. I think that's a really it's a smart move by both parties. MVP tries to build up a roster, bring people on, put on some fights, see who can and can't crack the big time. And you've even had, and Jake's fought on a couple of those shows. So I think that really helps too, that Jake's headline a couple of those events. And one of those events, I mean. And you stay in the Jake Paul business. Because if being at DAZN, it is lucrative. Jake sells pay-per-views. Jake gets social media views. Jake gets YouTube views. Jake makes a lot of money for DAZN. Jake Paul makes a lot of money off of DAZN. So it's a beneficial partnership. But man, that would have been the one thing I would have said is he can't mention they're fighting on Netflix. That's what business-wise, that's what I would have done. Would have been like, yeah, no, you're not doing this. Now, I'm still very skeptical that this fight happens on November the 15th. I'm skeptical this fight even happens at all. And this is why. Contract isn't signed for November the 15th. Jake said it in the ring, and it kind of got like just kind of glossed over. It's verbally agreed to. I did ask. It's verbally agreed to. But there's no signed contract. I now from what I've been told, this does happen in boxing. Like Mayweather Pacquiao, they had agreed to terms, but they didn't get signed to like fight week. So there are mega events that don't really get signed. The ink is dried until the week of the fight. Now, I hope for the sake of Jake Paul that fight happened. Not except for Jake Paul, for the sake of Netflix, because Netflix has made a significant financial investment in this already. Millions of dollars from what I've been told. But I would be very leery. There's a reason Jake Paul called out Alex Pereira, the UFC light heavyweight champion. To me, Jake didn't look very convinced that Mike is going to make it to the ring. I will believe Mike Tyson will make it to the ring to fight Jake Paul when Mike Tyson walks into the ring on November the 15th. I'm 40-60 on Mike making the walk. I'm not convinced. Now, Mike, I retweeted it. Mike put out a video of on Twitter of him watching. It was like it's like a 25-second clip that he from his verified channel of him watching the beginning of the introductions, at least, of the fight. He's going to be 58 years old by the time they walk into it. I'm sorry. I'm very skeptical. More skeptical he'll ever fight Alex Pereira. Even though he called out Alex Pereira. They FaceTimed in the ring. That was fascinating. And there's always that Saudi money. I think it's more realistic we see Alex Pereira and Jake Paul than we do Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Now, there's stuff I want to say that I'm not going to say yet regarding the Saudis and DAZN. There's some stuff brewing. I will put it that way between the entities. There's a lot going on behind the scenes between the people at DAZN and the people at the Kingdom. Chips, there's been a lot of substantial conversation. And if there's a fight that could happen, I think you would have to get it funded by the Kingdom and get it entities across the finish line. Because Dana White is as stubborn can be, and him and Jake don't have the most glorious relationship. They're not going to bake bread. They're not going to exchange Thanksgiving cards. You definitely won't see him eating Thanksgiving dinner together. But there's always a will, there is a way. Money always talks. So if the demand gets big enough, absolutely. Would I like to see that? Alex Pereira is the guy to end this Jake Paul fantasy tour, delusional tour. We'll get into that in a minute. But it is an option. I think another option is the rematch with Tommy Fury. Why not? I don't get why we're not there. That rematch should have already happened. Let's just be. It was a close fight. I hated a draw. I thought it was even for their skill level and where they're both at. Like if they fought today, it's closer than people. I know people want to knock Jake. Jake scored the only knockdown of the fight. Jake's got pop. It's a sellable fight. Did over 800,000 buys on pay-per-view on a Sunday. Think about that. On a freaking Sunday. And that was ESPN plus DAZN. I forget who else. I think that was it. Maybe TNT Sports. Out in the UK. But I'm just trying to figure out why that would sell. You can go to England. That does 70,000 people. Jake's a smart guy. That's where that one really, that's a head scratcher for me. Jake says he's all about history, all about making moments. That's a moment. That pack Wembley Stadium, I would say 60 to 70,000. I honestly think so. Avenge your only loss. If you want to be, and we'll get into this right now. So those are my three options. If I'm Jake Paul, that's kind of where I'm very skeptical. Actually, no, there is one more. Why not the Nate Diaz rematch? The fight was closer than the scorecards had indicated. And I like what I saw from Nate a couple weeks ago against Jorge Masvidal. I watched it back. I thought you could have said Nate won 6-4. There's no way he won 8 rounds. Let's just throw that in the garbage. But there's no way he won 8-2. 6-4, I could see 6 rounds. 8, I can't even see at the most 7. You can go 7-3, and I wouldn't be like robbery. But 8-2, that's a lot of home cooking in my estimation. But Nate can sell. Nate can draw. You packed 18,000 people into the Honda Center. He's a legit attraction. I don't know the numbers. The television pay-per-view numbers were not that hot, but this is the age of streaming. And I think that fight had to do better than. I think for that card to be a success, I think 100,000, 150, I think would be considered a success. It really, really do. But you could do it in MMA. I think it's time to see. I think it's time for PFL to get their return on the Jake Paul investment here, and let's have an MMA fight. Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. There's Conor McGregor is always out there. I think Jake Paul, Conor McGregor happens after Conor McGregor finishes out these 2 fights with the UFC. He can get out of that deal. He doesn't have to share the money. He can go and just do his shit. Not have to worry about giving a little bit of the pie to Uncle Dana. Because, man, did the UFC make a ton of money. Endeavor made a ton of money on that deal against Floyd Mayweather in 2017. God, that's 7 years ago. Doesn't even seem like it. Doesn't seem like about 7 years ago I was getting ready to hop on a plane to Las Vegas. But that is for another day. Okay. It took me, I thought of this, I was watching the fight, And right away, I'm like, okay, I get looking at Jake in the ring, looking at Mike in the ring, and that thought conjured into my mind right away. Is Jake Paul all fluff, or is there actually some bite to his game? I think it's an incomplete. I don't know. There's plenty of reasons you can say it's all fluff. He's facing MMA guys, bare knuckle guys, basketball players. He's faced 3 legitimate boxers. He's gone 2-1. 2 of those wins by knockout. I could go along with, well, he's improving. He's had 11 fights. Come on, cut the kid some slack. But when this is a guy it's hard to go along with that sentiment when he's only faced 3 legitimate pro boxers. And he's talking about, I want Canelo Alvarez. I want Badu Jack. I want Jai Apatai. You're saying that, but then you're going out and you're fighting Mike Perry, blown up welterweight. Nate Diaz, a blown up guy who should be fighting at 165. You face the basketball player who's having kidney issues in Nate Robinson. And I hope he gets a donor, because my heart goes out to that. And great article on ESPN.com. You're fighting Ant Gibb. Okay, your first bout. Okay, sure. Okay. I could go along that train. But when you're fighting basketball players, you're fighting some MMA guys who've never donned the boxing gloves. Like Tyron Woodley gave him a lot of trouble. I was at both. I was on the Jake Paul Tyron Woodley US tour in 2021. That was a lot of fun. That was a wild ride that I can write a book about, 2021. But let's just be, he's fighting guys that are highly overmatched, and he can just, because he's got raw natural power. He's got lightning in those hands, and he's got detonating power. I will never take that away from Jake Paul. But what I can take away is, what am I watching? What am I seeing? All I'm seeing is a guy who is facing guys he should beat. I will give him credit for the Andre August. Oh, I forgot the guy he fought in March in Puerto Rico. I forget the guy's name off the top of my head. But when I can give him those. But when you had your first legitimate test and you lost, even though it was controversial, you could say a draw. I think at best that was a draw. I hated a draw because I actually thought it was the knockdown in the final round that made it a draw for me. Because that Jake needed that, and Jake got it, and he won the round in the 8th round. But he has improved. You could tell under Larry Wade, he's getting better. And you want to see that improvement. And he's making it. The jab was there. There's times where the combinations are there. The combinations are good. He's fighting smart. That's 3/4 of the battle, at least to me. Like, he's fighting smarter, but then when you go out, you do this, and then you're gonna fight a 58-year-old man who is closer to collecting Social Security than he is his boxing prime. I can't. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to get behind. It really is, and I hate saying that because I like Jake. Jake's always gracious with me when it comes to time, but now I'm flip flopping here, and I know I am. I think it's right now. It's fluff. He's got a chance to make it some bite. He does. But right now, Jake Paul is fluff. He's getting matched up the right way, which is highly intelligent. I'm not going to, you can't begrudge it. If you go and face overmatch guys, you can make millions of dollars. You know, you can look at what he's done in a short amount of time. He's been on ESPN, he's been on Showtime, and he's fought for the zone. The three biggest, well, Showtime no longer in business, but and unfortunately, Showtime is no longer in the boxing business. But the three biggest entities in the sport. And then he's going to fight on Netflix. He's doing something right. But he's a marketing machine. But that's why I'm saying he's fluff. Right now, it's all fluff. He's got a chance. If he says, I want to be the cruiserweight champion, go fight someone in the top 15. Get this nonsense out of the way. Go fight some guys in the top. Fight the guy in the top 50. And then work your way down. You want to fight Jaya Patai. You want to fight Badu Jack. You want to fight Canelo Alvarez. Do that stuff. You want to be taken seriously? That's what you got to do, Jake Paul. End of story. You want all the credit, but you don't want to. I'll give Jake this. He accepts the criticism, and he knows it's there. But it's time to take the kid gloves off. Become a big boy. You want to be a big boy. You're big and you're strong. Face some guys your own size and see what happens. You did it twice. I want to see more of that. That's how you know he's improving. What's he doing to these guys? Is he getting the work in? That's the test. Because then you can say, oh, he knocked out these boxers. And this is the weird thing. He knocks out these boxers in the first, second round. But then he's going 10 rounds with Nate Diaz. He's going 6 rounds with Mike Perry. 8 rounds with Tyron Woodley, the first fight. 6 rounds, the second fight. It's like, get these guys just get them out of there. Sometimes I think he plays around and doesn't. It's just weird to me in that dynamic. But Jake Paul, you want to be taken seriously, my friend? Step it up. Because right now, you're a whole lot of feathers. Whole lot of feathers in my pillow. I got 3 dogs that have bigger bites than you right now, my friend. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, you prove the world wrong. Because you are a marketing machine. You are one of the biggest names in the world. You have a platform. Let's start using it. Use it right. Fight these guys. Get rid of this Mike Tyson idea. Actually, Alex Pereira, I like that idea. Because Alex Pereira has a boxing background. I can get on that. Don't fight AARP Mike Tyson. Fight in your prime UFC light heavyweight champion. A guy who can knock your block off, who's a legit boxer. Then go fight. You want to be the cruiserweight champion? Go for it. Let's, like you always say, let's go. Show us. If you do not watch this whole entire video, or you want to just hear the audio, make sure you just type in Walkway to Fight Club on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you listen to in terms of your audio listening, whether you're walking, running, cleaning the house, whatever you do when you listen to audio. Just type in Walkway to Fight Club. Rate, review, download, and subscribe. Did an interview is up with Eric Bischoff. Did from April 2021. We talked about the finger poke of doom, which is still relevant and weird to say. His run is as executive director of SmackDown. We talked the Hall of Fame. We went an hour. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people are watching it. So I'm really enjoying that. So thank you so much for everyone that is doing that. Just hit that download button. And also for here, if you watch the whole video, subscribe. Get you all the instant notifications. A lot of cool videos coming up as we are on the road to WWE SummerSlam on August the 3rd out in Cleveland, Ohio. We'll have some list videos coming up here, top videos. I got some pretty cool ideas that I have conjured up on my mind as we are on the road to SummerSlam. Thank you so much. Leave a comment. Leave a thumbs up. Subscribe. This is Steven Millhausen. Now I'll talk to you guys later. Mwah. Peace. I'm out of here.